Screen sharing is possible. Let me start today's lecture on uplink shared channels. Okay. So uplink shared channels. I think you might have remembered while discussing about the downlink shared channels. What are the downlink shared channels are there, right? So here only one uplink shared channel is there. That is, the transport channel is having only one uplink shared channel. Okay, so that will be mapped to the physical uplink shared channel. Okay, and for higher layers, that is from logical channels, see common control channel, dedicated common control channel, and a dedicated traffic channel are mapped only to one transport channel, that is uplink shared channel. Okay, and it has that uplink shared channel will be mapped to the physical uplink shared channel. So is it possible to say what difference we are able to find out from this uplink shared channel when compared to the downlink shared channels? There in the transport channel, we had more than one transport channel. Okay, but here only one transport channel, which is uplink shared channel. Okay, so that will be mapped to the physical uplink shared channel. Okay. And let us see what type of encoding, channel encoding or modulation is used for each type of the channels, right? See, as I said, the type of channel encoding technique used is 1/3 turbo encoder. The rate of the code is 1/3, right? So that is used to encode the transport block, and fine. So this is what the channel encoding technique used for this particular channel, that is for uplink shared channel. As I said, it is a turbo encoder with coding rate of 1/3, right? So that is used to encode the transport block. So after this one encoding, right? The encoded symbols are scrambled. Right, means the code word output of the channel coding processing is a code word, right? So that will be scrambled before modulation, right? So why that scrambling is done is to randomize the interference. Okay, scrambling is done to randomize the interference. Here, in case of uplink, for this uplink shared channel, the type of scrambling user is user equipment specific scrambling. which I already discussed when I was discussing about downlink shared channels. That is that user equipment specific scrambling will have the pattern of say for antenna port 0, all 16 bits will be 0, and for antenna port 1 the scrambling sequence will be 15 bits 0 and last bit is 1. Okay, so that is what the thing is. And this uplink shared channel, as I said, is mapped to the physical uplink shared channel. Okay, and it supports 3 different types of modulations. One is QPSK, second one is 16 QAM, and third one is 64 QAM modulation. Okay, 64 QAM. And here QPSK and 16 QAM are supported by every handset. Okay, 64 QAM, that support of modulation depends on the user equipment capability. Okay, even in the user equipment, there are different versions. Okay, only few will support this 64 QAM. Okay, fine. So then the modulation order and the redundancy version for this channel coding of the hybrid ARQ protocol are specified in the 5-bit modulation and coding scheme and redundancy version field of the DCI, which is carried on a physical downlink control channel with format 0. Right. So already we have discussed what is it downlink control information, that is DCI format. Right. Always that is that will be carried on the physical downlink control channel, I said. Okay, means the modulation order and the redundancy version for this channel encoding technique, especially for uplink shared channel, is specified in the what 5-bit that field, okay, of DCI format 0. Okay, so this is all about just channel encoding and modulation. What type of encoding is used and what type of modulation supported by this particular uplink shared channel. Okay, so then let us discuss about the frequency hopping. Okay, so why frequency hopping is required for this uplink shared channels? Okay, the thing is here, in case of uplink, means after code word, right, scrambling is done by the scrambler. So we do that symbol mapping and then resource mapping, right, after pre-coding. So here the resource mapper will map the complex valued modulation symbols in sequence onto the PRBs, physical resource blocks, assigned for transmission of this physical uplink shared channel. Okay, so the resource mapper will do that mapping, right, and it supports only the localized resource allocation. Okay, so in the uplink, it supports only the localized resource allocation. So what is the advantage of this? See, this localized resource allocation retains the property of single carrier, okay, in the uplink transmission. So this single carrier property provides only little frequency diversity gain. Okay, but in case of downlink, so it is possible to allocate disjoint sets of resource blocks to the user equipment. So with that, it is possible to extract more frequency diversity gain. Okay, right? So means in case of uplink, it is not possible to allocate discontinuous or disjoint resource block. We need to allocate the continuous resource blocks. Okay, so with that, the frequency diversity gain will be very small. So to achieve more frequency diversity gain, this LTE supports frequency hopping on the physical uplink shared channel. Okay. Okay, so that provides, means this frequency hopping provides additional frequency diversity gain in the uplink. So that is the purpose of frequency hopping. So in addition to that, this frequency hopping also provides interference averaging when the system is not 100% loaded. Okay, it also provides interference averaging, means it will average the interference when system is not 100% loaded. Okay, so these are the two benefits which we get from frequency hopping. Okay, I hope you understood why frequency hopping is supported by LTE in the uplink. Right? So what is the problem? So as I said, the problem is in the uplink it supports only the localized resource allocation. Okay, that retains the property of what single carrier this one. With that, it is possible to have only little frequency diversity gain, right? So to overcome this problem, this LTE supports frequency hopping on the physical uplink shared channel, right? So with that, it is possible to have some more frequency diversity gain in the uplink, right? And as I said, the frequency hopping also provides interference averaging when system is not loaded 100%, right? So let us see what are the different types of frequency hopping techniques used are supported in the LTE for uplink. Okay, so basically there are two types. One is intra subframe frequency hopping, and second one is inter subframe frequency hopping. Okay, so what is this intra subframe frequency hopping? See here I have taken one example to indicate what is this intra sub frequency hopping, and okay, and what is inter sub frame frequency hopping. See what happens in intra sub frame frequency hopping. So in one subframe, right, there will be two slots, right? So this is the physical resource block allocated to one specific user equipment. Okay, so he can hop within the subframe, okay, from one slot to another slot. So with that, it is possible to have a frequency diversity gain, right? See, I have taken here one example. See, this is one subframe, right? This is one user, this is another user, and he hops within subframe from one slot to another slot. So this is slot 1 and this is slot 2. He is hopping from one slot to another slot within the subframe. Okay, but what happens in inter subframe frequency hopping? Here, the user equipment, means the resource block, can hop from one subframe to another subframe. Okay, so this is what the difference is, intra and inter. So intra means within the subframe, the user equipment will be hopping its resource block from one slot to another slot. But in inter subframe, it will hop from one subframe to another subframe. Okay. So I hope is it clear what I said about intra subframe frequency hopping and inter subframe frequency hopping. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Is it clear, this concept? Intra subframe frequency hopping and inter subframe frequency hopping. It's very simple actually. Right. Intra means what? Within the subframe, from one slot to another slot, the frequency hopping will happen for the user equipment for allocating the resource block. Right. So in case of inter subframe, from one subframe to another subframe, the frequency hopping will happen. That's all. Okay. So this is what is written here. See, intra subframe hopping, right? I said that the user equipment hops to another frequency allocation from one slot to another within the same subframe. As I said, in case of inter subframe hopping, the frequency resource allocation changes from one subframe to another subframe, right? So the higher layers will determine the whether the hopping is inter subframe or intra and inter subframe. Okay, so this intra-subframe hopping provides higher frequency diversity gain, right? And that can be extracted over the single hybrid ARQ transmission, because the every hybrid ARQ transmission takes one subframe duration. That is, one subframe duration is 1 TTI, that is a transmission time interval, so which is equal to 1 millisecond. Okay, so with that we say intra subframe hopping provides the higher frequency diversity gain, right? This inter subframe hopping takes multiple hybrid ARQ transmissions, okay, in order to extract the frequency diversity gain. This is what the difference is. And the user equipment will perform the physical uplink shared channel frequency hopping. So when does it performs the frequency hopping? Right? When does the user equipment performs this frequency hopping? Right? So that depends on the frequency hopping field bit, okay, which is there or set in the DCI format 0. Okay, if it is set to 1, then it performs the frequency hopping. Okay, and if it is set to 0, then the frequency hopping will not be performed by the physical uplink shared channel. Okay, so there is a field in the DCI format 0 for this frequency hopping. Okay. Uh, so if the frequency hopping field is enabled, okay, then there are two types of frequency hopping. So one is type 1 hopping. Okay, this type 1 hopping uses an explicit offset in the second slot. Okay, that will be determined by the parameters of DCI format 0. Okay, and second one is type 2 hopping. Okay, in this case, the set of physical resource blocks to be used for transmission is given by the scheduling grant, okay, along with the predefined hopping pattern. That is the type 2 hopping. Hello. Hello?
Yes, sir.
It's audible, no?
Yes, sir.
Sir, now it's
Huh?
audible. It's audible.
Audible. Yeah, I think because no response, no, so I thought I don't know whether people are there or not. Fine. So as I said, there are means I was telling about this frequency hopping, right? I said the user equipment performs physical uplink shared channel frequency hopping depending upon the value of FH, whether it is 0 or 1. If it is 1, it is enabled. If it is 0, it is disabled. Okay, so when it is enabled, we say again there are two types of hopping. One is type 1 hopping and another is type 2 hopping. In case of type 1 hopping, it uses explicit offset in the second slot. That is determined by the parameters which will be there in the DCA format 0. Right? In case of type 2 hopping, the set of physical resource blocks to be used for transmission is given by the scheduling grant along with the predefined hopping pattern. Okay, when the frequency hopping field is disabled, so during that time, the physical resource block used for transmission will be is equal to what? The number of physical resource block is equal to the number of virtual resource block. So these virtual resource blocks index is obtained from the uplink scheduling grant. Okay, so then as I said, the user equipment first determines the allocated resource blocks after applying all these frequency hopping rules. Okay, and then the data is mapped onto these resources. So this is all about frequency hopping supported by LTE in the uplink. Okay, so if we have any questions about this frequency hopping, you can ask me. Then let me discuss about the next topic, which is on multi-antenna transmission supported in the uplink. Okay, so by considering the cost and complexity of the user equipment, so LTE supports a limited number of multi-antenna schemes. Okay. So because as I said, because based on the cost and complexity of the user equipment, right? So LTE supports a limited number of multi-antenna transmission schemes in the uplink. So one is the transmit antenna selection, and another one is multi-user MIMO. Okay. So let us see the first one, that is a transmit antenna selection, what it is and all. So the transmit antenna selection happens with two or more transmit antennas into the user equipment. See, when we have two or more transmit antennas into the user equipment, we go for this transmit antenna selection, right? So this transmit antenna selection is used, so that will provide a spatial diversity gain. Okay. So then this multi-antenna transmission at the user equipment, so depends on the signaling from the higher layers. Okay. That is from higher layers. As I said, in the transmission antenna selection, right? Transmission or transmit antenna selection. Again, we have three things. One is no antenna selection. Okay, means if the transmit antenna selection is disabled or not supported by the user equipment, then this user equipment will use the or it can transmit the information from antenna port 0. So by default, it is antenna port 0. Okay, the second thing is closed loop antenna selection. Okay, so in case of this closed loop antenna selection format, okay, if the closed loop user equipment transmit antenna selection is enabled by the higher layers, so user equipment performs this transmit antenna selection in response to the commands received via DCA format 0 from the ENB. Okay, so it will enable that transmit antenna selection based on what commands it receives from the DCA format 0 from the ENB. Okay, this DCA format 0 is scrambled with the antenna selection mask. Okay, so that will enable the user equipment to determine which antenna port to select. I think, as I said already about this antenna selection mask, For port 0, all 16 bits will be 0. Okay, for port 1, first 15 bits will be 0 and last bit is 1. That is the antenna selection mask. Okay, so in case of this open loop antenna selection, okay, means if the user equipment selects this open loop user equipment antenna, which is enabled by again higher layers, so the transmit antenna will be selected by the user equipment is not specified, because here there is no feedback to the ENB, right? Though there is no feedback, though there is no is coming now. Okay. See, for open loop, right? So the user equipment will be able to determine what is the optimum antenna. So that based on this hybrid ARQ acknowledgement or negative acknowledgement feedback. So based on the feedback which it obtains about this hybrid ARQ acknowledgement and a negative acknowledgement, user equipment will be able to determine what is the optimum antenna, whether it is for port 0 or port 1 like that. So the user equipment can transmit from antenna 0 for some time instance, and then it can switch to antenna 1, okay, for next time instance. So the switching can happen from antenna 0 to antenna 1, okay, for some amount of instance. So the user equipment will monitor that time instance. So based on that, this hybrid ARQ, acknowledgement and negative acknowledgement ratio, so it can decide whether it can select antenna 0 or antenna 1 is the better one. So as I said here, if the acknowledgement or negative acknowledgement ratio in the time instance when antenna 0 was used, that is less than this hybrid ARQ acknowledgement or negative acknowledgement ratio for the time instance when antenna 1 was used, then the antenna 1 is the better choice, what we say, right? If that acknowledgement ratio at some instance when antenna 0 was using is less than the acknowledgement ratio for time instance when antenna 1 was used, then antenna 1 selection was the better choice compared to antenna 0. And it will vice versa also. Means when this ratio, that is hybrid ARQ acknowledgement or negative acknowledgement is greater than the hybrid ARQ acknowledgement, that is positive acknowledgement, the acknowledgement ratio in the time instance when antenna 0 was used, then during that time antenna 0 selection is better. Okay, so what we can say here in a nutshell is, depending upon the value of this ratio, that is hybrid ARQ, positive acknowledgement and a negative acknowledgement, the selection of antenna will be done, okay, whether antenna 0 or antenna 1. So this is about the transmit antenna selection method. And the next one is the multi-user MIMO. Okay, so multi-user MIMO. So multi-user MIMO is supported in the uplink, right? And this multi-user MIMO is also known as virtual MIMO transmission. Okay. So what is multi-user MIMO? Means if two user equipments transmits simultaneously on the same radio resource, okay, so that will form the virtual MIMO channel. Okay, and the ENB will be able to separate the data streams for each user equipment. Okay. So the type of technique used is, I can say, multi-user detection. Okay, that is what the multi-user MIMO is. Okay, so this transmission means, as I said, two user equipments transmits simultaneously on the same radio resource, right? So that forms the virtual MIMO channel. And ENB will be able to separate these two data streams from each user equipment by using the orthogonal reference signals. I will come back to that, what it is. So that will provide the spatial multiplexing gain. So that will increase uplink spectrum efficiency even with the single antenna user equipments, right? Though the user equipment is transmitting with single antenna only, because the two user equipments can transmit simultaneously over the same radio resource. So because of that, it provides the spatial multiplexing gain. That in turn will increase the uplink spectrum efficiency with the single antenna only, right? So this multi-user MIMO operation, this mode affects the operation at the ENB, because the ENB has to take care of the calculation of this channel quality indicator and as well as scheduling process. Okay, because that keeps changing. That will change due to interaction between data streams for different user equipments, right? So while doing that, so it will affect the E node B operation, right? But the E node B can estimate the channel information from the uplink reference signal. So as I said, the uplink reference signals are orthogonal to each other, right? So it is capable of performing the channel quality indicator calculation and as well as scheduling without further feedback from the user equipments. So that makes simpler in implementing this multi-user multiple input, multiple output in the uplink compared to the downlink. Okay, so as I said, the ENB, okay, will be able to differentiate and demodulate the signals from two user equipments because it uses orthogonal reference signals, okay, for each user equipment. So because of that, it is possible to achieve this spatial diversity gain. So with that, the spectrum efficiency will increase. So this is all about multi-user MIMO. Okay. So any questions to be asked? If you have any questions, you can ask me about either multi-user MIMO or about frequency hopping or even about any other topic which is related to the uplink transport channel processing. So just to sum up, so today I have discussed about what are the transport channel in the uplink. As I said, it is only one transport channel, right? That is uplink shared channel, which is mapped to the physical uplink shared channel, right? In turn, that uplink shared channel is mapped to three channels, three logical channels. That is common control channel, dedicated common control channel, dedicated control channel, then dedicated traffic channel. So these are the three channels in the logical this one are mapped to uplink shared channel, which is there in the transport, and that uplink shared channel is mapped to physical uplink shared channel in the physical this one, right? I said what type of coding is used. I said turbo encoding with a coding rate of 1/3 is used for every transport block, and I said the encoded symbols are scrambled before modulation to randomize the interference, and it uses the user equipment specific scrambling, right? And it supports three different types of modulation techniques. One is QPSK, another is 16 QAM, and another is 64 QAM. So QPSK and 16 QAM are supported by every user equipment, and the 64 QAM depends on the capability of the user equipment. Then I said about the frequency diversity hopping. So why do you go for frequency hopping? So this frequency hopping provides the frequency diversity gain in the uplink, right? And it also averages the interference when the system is not loaded 100%. So based on that, I said there are two different types of frequency hopping techniques. One is intra-subframe frequency hopping, and another one is inter-subframe frequency hopping. Right? In case of intra, the frequency hopping takes place within a subframe from one slot to another slot. In case of inter subframe,